It's a new day in the island of Mykonos in Greece as the sun rises that morning of September 9, 2011. Other cruise ships have anchored offshore, while our ship docked at the Tarlos pier past midnight. In the morning, we disembarked for the day's excursion to the island of Delos.
Group 3?
Yes, yes. Our tour guide shortly started gathering us for what sounded like a very interesting half-a-day tour. But first, we all had to listen for our tour instructions.
About half an hour, maybe 35 minutes. It will take us to go to get to Delos. We'll do the archaeological sites together, and then you will have some time on your own on Delos.
We were assigned to group number 3 as our guide collected our passes before proceeding to board the transport boat, interestingly enough, named after a killer whale. While our ship sits at the dock looking abandoned, we patiently awaited to sail out for the Island of Delos adventure. Delos and the island we were leaving behind, Mykonos, belong to the island group known as the Cyclades, since they form a rough circle around the sacred island of Delos. Just like some of the other Greek islands I've visited, most houses in Mykonos were painted white, as one can easily observe a distance from its shore. Moving forward and heading for Delos, at first the boat ride seemed like forever, but I busied myself walking around the boat, enjoying the short cruise, smelling the fresh sea air, or simply looking out to enjoy the Mykonos view ashore. Most people preferred to stay outside observing the sea and island surroundings as we slowed down to pass a small rocky island. Inside the deck, drinks and snacks were available, but not free. Delos is 30 minutes by boat from Mykonos. It has become one of the most important mythological, historical, and archaeological sites in Greece. As we slowly got closer to the Delos harbor, we encountered more of what appeared to be like lava rocks. And when we finally docked, others couldn't wait to start taking pictures. We were eager to go and ready to explore this famous archaeological site. Upon our arrival, this little fellow seemed surprised and wondered where all these people come from. Some of us walked a bit slow, but our guide waited in the corner for everyone in our group. We're definitely now in Delos, and it was time to introduce Delos to us and say hello to this island of mythology.
Culture, a very important god who was born according to mythology.
In mythology, this sacred island was the birthplace of Apollo and Artemis, and for 1,000 years or so after the 9th century BC was the political and religious center of the Aegean.
Here in the Cyclades it can be rather windy. Today it's really nice. It's very calm, as you can...
While our guide took her time, I briefly looked around to see the other group ahead of us. Some of us were taking pictures and trying to listen at the same time, or paid less attention when the subject became less interesting.
People here since the second millennium BC, so just few people in the island.
As if in religious procession, we followed our guide. I started falling behind because I kept taking pictures, but our guide patiently waited. From the ground to the standing walls, everything was made of stones or marbles in this centuries-old residential district.
So it's really amazing that we have walls up to that height.
We were told this was the poor houses area, which were easily distinguished by the absence of marble stones.
They would use always marble for the mosaics. If you recognize the material, it's pieces, tiles of marble, and of course it's color.
The houses for the rich were nicely decorated with mosaic floors and surrounded by marble columns. Other amenities that came with the rich houses included the bathrooms,
the existence of a sewage system, so the dirty water, another water system. We have the dirty water would go out and join the central toilet was running under the theater street.
According to Greek mythology, the beautiful Leto gave birth to her twins here. They were named Apollo, the god of the sun, and Artemis, the goddess of the moon. A series of temples and monuments were built here over a span of a millennium. Moving on to the next area, this island tour continued along the narrow ancient walkways. In the theater district, we all pretended to be watching a show, with our tour guide as the main performer doing her best in telling us about Delos and this particular section.
Something was going on in the theater, maybe a play under competition or some comedy for fun, many things, and in the end they will give the prize, of course, to the winner.
I panned around the theater a bit, and I thought I heard a whisper from an ancient spirit that I climb up to the higher section for the best views. It didn't take long for the guide to notice, and she told me to come back down to rejoin the group. Walking back, we encountered what looked like the sewage system as we headed to the other side. The archaeological site covers almost the entire island, starting from the harbor. The harbor led to the sanctuary of Apollo, where there were temples, altars, votive offerings, and other buildings. There are marble ruins of the 4 temples to Apollo, one of them known as the Temple of the Athenians.
Now, on that side we had the temples of Apollo. This one looking really, you see only the lowest part of the wall back there. That used to be the great temple of Apollo. Not looking great at all nowadays, unfortunately. As always,
this tiny island of Delos reveals a stunning tradition as a religious center for the Ionian Greeks. During the last centuries, numerous pieces of sculptures were transferred to the museums of Greece and abroad, while marbles from the ancient buildings were used as building materials by the inhabitants of the nearby islands. Now uninhabited and under the jurisdiction of Mykonos, the entire island has been declared a national museum, and in 1990 included in the UNESCO's World Cultural Heritage. Here in the temple district, there's plenty of marble columns and stones. Partial sections of the marble columns laid attempted to have been put together. There were more small parts of the temples that lay scattered or arranged neatly and isolated in other sections of this area. This was the time when our guide let us be on our own, and the best parts of the temples have been left mostly to our own imaginations, including something that looked like a water well in the middle of the ruins. North of the temples is the Lion District. These lions are the replicas of the 9 ancient marble lions sculptures on the terrace of the lions that date from the 7th century BC. They were placed alongside and once reflected a Clearwater Lake and gazing across this island. Only 5 lions remain today. The originals have been moved into the nearby museum. While I got busy taking pictures, others rushed to check out the museum. When I suddenly remembered about it, I realized I don't have time to go and cover it. So I decided to just head back to the boat and wait for the others for our return to Mykonos. Heading back, it was again all views of a rocky island, and the new group of visitors were just heading the other way toward Delos. It was still a calm and sunny day, and glad to know that our ship hadn't left us. Orca is back at the port, and we brought back with us the memories from the ruins of ancient Delos.